When I was about 17, my stepdad passed away and it rocked me. Like we were really close. And I was a Christian and I was a new Christian and I thought that I had to have faith and I had to pray and God would comfort me. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted, it says in the Bible. And so I just put this expectation on myself and I internalized all of these feelings and all of this emotion and it literally ate me alive. Like people don't know how to deal with mourning. Um, there are healthy ways and there are unhealthy ways, but anybody who tells you you can fake it till you make it through, like that's just not true. You have to do the work to deal with the emotions. And that doesn't mean sitting around crying all day, but it also doesn't mean stuffing it down and pretending that the emotions are there. If they're there, they're there and you need to deal with them. And I didn't know how to do that when I was 17. And so I got very sick and I got very depressed and I got very overly medicated. I was on an antidepressant, I was on a sleeping medication, and I was on a steroid because my blood pressure was a mess. Yeah. And so then I, over the course of a year, got into a really dark spot and I couldn't even get out of bed anymore. And I was so full of shame. Like I internalized it all. I thought it was all my fault. And I didn't want to be alive anymore. And so I created this plan to end my life. I really did. I knew how I would do it. I knew where I would do it. And it was just a matter of when I was going to do it. And I mean, praise God I didn't do it. But I was arrogantly proud of my plan. Like I was sitting there one night in bed in my dark room, just laying in bed thinking about my plan. And I was thinking, God, like, how do people screw this up? I don't get it. Like if you want to end your life, you gotta be a dummy to screw it up. That's what I was thinking in my arrogant, now 18-year-old brain. And so then I had this moment with the Lord. This is the first time I remember him speaking to me. Like before I knew that the Lord could speak to me, like really, he was speaking to me. And I remember him saying, he said, because I'm like so proud of my plan. And he said, what about my plan for your life, Jenna? And then I heard that preacher that preached the night that I got saved. It was as if he was in the room, or as if I was back in that room with my 15-year-old self. And he said, the young person, it is not how God fits into your plans, it's how you fit into God's plan. And if you can understand that difference, now your life is going to look radically different. And it was like he's in the room with me. And then I heard the verse, Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for hope and a future and to prosper you. And it rocked me. Like it rocked me. Like it shook me so much that I got out of bed and I went to my mom and I said, Mom, I think I'm gonna hurt myself and I need more help. Like what we're doing isn't working. I was in counseling, I was on medication, and it wasn't working. And so the next day I went to counseling, an emergency counseling session, and she said, if you're really gonna hurt yourself, there's really only one option. We need to check you into a hospital. Done. Checked myself into a hospital like a couple days after I turned 18. Um, and when I was there, first they took me off pretty much all of the medications I was on, and I went through a severe drug withdrawal because the medicine was really messing with my body and my mind. So it wasn't all my fault. And then secondly, every day they had to set a daily goal, and I knew that I had to let light in. I was in such a dark spot, and so I said, I'm going to read one verse, and I'm going to pray for 1 minute. That was my goal on day one. Your goal could have been, I'm going to tie my shoes or I'm going to make my bed. But I knew that if I was going to get free, this was going to be a piece of it. The voice of the Lord, the light of God, was the only thing that could truly bring me freedom from my darkness. So I said, I'm going to read one verse and I'm going to pray for 1 minute. And the next day, I'm going to read 2 verses and I'm going to pray for 2 minutes. And I wasn't like, my prayer was, I'll tell you what it was. I repeated this over and over. Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. Over and over and over. I would literally set a timer and just pray that over and over and over again until by the end of it, by day 4, by day 5, by day 6, I was like actually able to pray. Because you know what happens when you let a little bit of light into a dark spot? When you start to like open that window and pull back the blinds, as light comes rushing in and darkness disappears like that. It doesn't take much light to get rid of darkness. So yeah, so that's what I did. And by the time I left the hospital, I was ministering to the other girls that were in there with me. I was telling them about Jesus. I was telling them about how I got my freedom. And I know, I just know, like, my life, God does have a purpose for it. And I'm continuing to walk it out. I'm continuing to figure it out. But I continue to stay in that spot of like, okay, God, it's not my plans, it's your plans. What would you have me do now? Where would you have me go? Who would you have me align with? Who would you have me talk to? Like, my plans, we can throw those out the window because they, like, God loves my heart and he loves me, but like my plans, they're never going to measure up to the plans that God has for me. They're just not. My plans would have ended my life. So I continue to trust him fully and wholly, and follow him and let his light guide my steps, and encourage other people to do the same thing.